Okay, we're at the point where you want to build your game. And it is remarkably easy, but we're going to double check a couple of things. First, I want to make sure the game still runs. So I went up here and I pressed the play button. It does this sometimes for no reason. If you've changed nothing, it'll do that. I don't know why. Okay, I can still move around. I can still back up, turn. It'll jump. Still run into things. That's fun to do. Well, I missed it. This player isn't that reactive. We can adjust some of the numbers. That'll be in a later episode. Let's push this thing away. Yeah, I want to play, but it's working. So I'm going to press the play button again and stop it. Okay, so now we know that it works. File saved to be sure. Edit, project settings. Let's get back to the project settings we did before. Company name. Now it doesn't matter in the class, but when you start to get close to production and you want to release something, you need to think of a name. You need to research on the internet and find out if it's a name that somebody else has grabbed. If you release a product on a lot of company stores, you can't change your name later without being re-verified again, because as far as they know, you're a different company. Same with the project name. By the time you push the project the first time to a store on the internet, you'll have to fix your project name. Now this project name doesn't appear to the user, so it doesn't really matter if you have to change it a little bit before you push the first time, or if you call your game the Super World, but in here it might say the Greatest World. It doesn't matter if they're the same, but this is the product name that the store will see it as, and you can't change that, or it'll think that you're pushing a whole new game. The version number, you always want to bump it before you do something important. We're not going to do any icons or images right now. We'll do that later. Make sure that this is set and it doesn't give you an error of had a bad character in it. Let's see, this is mono, standard, both, because we don't know if we're going to be doing the web or not. So that looks good. So I'm going to close this, and I may have changed something, so I'm going to hit File, Save. Now comes the fun part. I'm going to say File, then go to Build Settings. Don't go to Build and Run yet. Build Settings. Bring this over. Make sure this is selected. Windows, Mac, and Linux. You may not have all of these options if you didn't install all the extra separate pieces, or they may show up gray like this. Doesn't matter. Just make sure that this one here, Windows, is checked. We're doing Windows, and we're building for the 64-bit platform. I don't think anybody would build for the 32-bit anymore, so I'm not even going to try to see if that works. Development build means that you can debug the program, and definitely in this class we're going to do some debugging. So let's make sure the developer build is on. We want to debug these scripts that we'll be building, so let's make sure that's on. This last one says when the game starts, don't actually start the game until Microsoft Visual Studio connects to the game. We'll use that later, but for now we'll leave it off. And then we're going to press this really complicated button here called Build. And in my project, I'm going to create a directory called Builds. Now this is in the same directory as the Assets folder. It's not in the Assets folder. It's the one above the Assets folder. Okay, and then in Builds, I'm going to make 3 directories. I'm going to make the first directory called Oculus, in case we're going to build for the Oculus headset. I'm going to make another one called Web, in case we're going to build for the web page, making this game run on a web page. It's really simple. It's in a separate video, but we can do that. And last but not least, Windows. Okay, so in this build we've selected a Windows build here. We're going to build on Windows. I've made a directory at the top level of the project called Builds, and in that I've made the directory we're going to use right now called Windows. I select that as a folder and it starts building. Now this is a tiny project, so I'm betting we can just hang out here for a little bit and it'll finish before too long. I have some projects that take, the first time it builds, it can take 30 minutes to build. So that would be obviously not in the same video. Now, while we have a few seconds here, oh, it already finished. We don't even have a few seconds. It's about ready to finish. It wiped out the screen. This is normal, by the way, that it cleared it out. The screen, it comes back. Nothing broke. It just, that's what it does. So in the build directory, Windows, it created myfirstproject.exe. Let's double click on that. It's going to ask this firewall block thing. Do whatever's right for your site. I always check both and allow access because I have multiple computers in-house and I want them to be able to access any. So now the big question, I'm using my Xbox controller right now. That's USB plugged into Windows, and this program is running. It's got my first project up here, or whatever you called yours. There's the cubes we were playing with to make them different angles, and there's another one here somewhere. There we go. So we know that it's what we did. The ball is probably already fallen off the world. Yeah, I think it's gone. And so to end this exercise, we did it in the first, run it in the editors. We're going to do it in here. I'm going to run it off backwards, and we're going to see ourselves fly into oblivion. Wow! Okay, we know it works. We know it works. So at this point, congratulations, you are a successful game builder. Now the next thing to do is to start making this something somebody wants to buy. I mean, you could give this to your friends, and it could just be something you know, your kid, brother, sister, whatever, that wants to just play around and fall off the world and giggles at it, and it's fine. The way that you would do that for Windows is you could zip this entire Windows directory up and load it somewhere. That's not the way you release the product, but if you did that or gave it to your friends, it would work. Towards the end of this class, we'll have we'll show you ways to release the product. And we're not going to go into a lot of detail there because they keep changing a lot of the details. But we'll have some stuff set up for you. We'll have some more starter kits that you can just download, edit a file, and build your own setup.exe, which will run and install your program. And then I'll show you some other things for release. So the great news is you've built this program and that it runs. And just in case you wanted to know, file, once it runs, and maybe let's say you've made a minor tweak and you want to check it out, you don't have to go through build settings again. You just say build and run. It builds, for the most part, only things that change, in this case nothing, and then runs the program. So that's the difference between build and run. Build settings lets you tweak things, and then you build. Or you can hit build and run here if you want. And then build and run from this menu doesn't let you tweak the settings. It just goes with whatever settings you have. So that ends lesson 1. And lesson 1 was getting you up and running. In lesson 2, we're going to start making the world prettier and more exciting. And that's where a lot of people who are artists really excel. We'll see you in lesson number 2. And I would like to be the first to say congratulations.